Welcome back to another episode of Rethink Real Estate. This is the most difficult thing for me to talk about, which is what we've been getting a whole bunch of requests for, is how do you handle offers? It's something that I certainly have had a great deal of practice with, and it's certainly something that our auction agents within North America have a great deal of practice at because of our low bidding to start from prices, is that we get a great deal of offers on a property, and it really allows people to hone their skills on making sure that you can get the highest and best out of somebody. But today I'm going to go through a strategy with you where essentially I teach you how not to counter, to figure out where that buyer really is, and from the agent's perspective or whatever position that you are ultimately in order to determine the one of two things that an offer is. One, an offer is either an offer to buy the property, or two, it's either education for your client. They're the two outcomes when it comes to an offer. And it's really getting down to whether or not this offer is going to be, or that client that has made the offer is going to be the one that purchases the property, getting to that without doing counteroffers. Counteroffers are the laziest thing that have happened within the real estate industry. And today, as I mentioned in this podcast, this is designed that if a seller was to ask you in a listing presentation, Ben, I test drove my car, can I test drive you in your negotiation strategy? They should be able to actually ask that question. And this hopefully will give you some type of thesis to figuring out very quickly of whether or not this is a real buyer that can actually purchase the property, or whether or not this is an educational offer to educate your client on the marketplace in its entirety. So guys, hopefully you enjoy it. It's a little bit messy, this episode. I have to fully admit, falling on the sword, but it's a difficult thing to teach because at the end of the day, there's so many different circumstances can be at play. Hope it's helpful. Hope you put it into play. Thanks so much. Welcome to Rethink Real Estate. My name is Ben Brady, and this is a real estate podcast aimed to deliver sales strategies, marketing tips, and business insights from industry experts and myself to build a listing-focused business for the future. Let's get into it. This is quite possibly one of the hardest things to talk about and to take people through, is how to handle an offer in a situation. Because there's so many nuances when it comes to the offer process itself, in this perspective of sellers, property, the other agent on the other end, buyers, the nature of which it's come in at, what stage of the auction process you're in, if you are at auction, if you're not, how long has the property been on the marketplace? There's so many different elements of all of this that come together. But I want to see today if I can give you some fundamental things that might help you actually handle the offer process appropriately, because I just want you to understand that this portion of what we do as realtors is actually why people should be employing real estate agents. And the reality is that part of this process, and why I made sure that I had a refined method of which I would do things, is one, because I really truly believe that in the real estate industry, if you're not doing at least a couple of offers a month or negotiating a couple of deals a month, is that I don't believe that you've got the muscle memory or the cadence in order to actually build the consistent skill sets that you need in order to negotiate an offer correctly. And again, I know I might offend a fair few people that are listening to this that might do one deal every now and then, or one deal a month, or haven't done a deal in a long time. But realistically, guys, is that if you are not practicing your negotiation skills in order to actually handle an offer particularly well, it's not even negotiation, it's just process. It's just process is all it is, in order to ensure that you are protecting the seller's outcome and you are making sure that you are handling yourself appropriate. I honestly don't believe that you are fit enough to be doing real estate for somebody's largest asset unless you are sharpening the sword on a regular basis, whether it be podcasts, whether it be different elements. But I've got to admit is that when it comes down to offers, there is not a great deal of real estate training that is out there on how to handle an offer. Because one of the things that blows my mind, is just infuriating to me within the real estate industry. The first thing, guys, I'm going to give you my absolute opinion of this, is if the word comes out of your mouth, how should you handle an offer? Send a counter comes out of your mouth, you are ill-equipped to be an agent negotiating for a seller's biggest asset. And I'm sorry if that sounds ultimately aggressive, but it is the absolute truth. Getting a counteroffer together to then give to the seller, sure, maybe after you've tried absolutely everything that you need to, or maybe if your seller needs that process of elimination, there may be a time that happens. But if that is your first action, you are doing this wrong, and shame on you completely. So let's talk about this today, because I want to get you into a position that if you're in a listing presentation with us and a seller says to you, well, Ben, we're considering somebody else, or whatever it is, you're in a situation where you're competing for a listing and you say to your sellers, hey, you test drove your car, didn't you? Yep, great. Why don't you test drive your agent that's going to be negotiating for your biggest asset to make sure that I don't leave money on the table for you? If the notion of you saying that in a listing presentation, or the simple idea of me saying that you should ask a seller that, makes you nauseous or nervous, guys, that means you don't have a practical way to show them how you've got a formulated process. Now, this might not be a one size fits all, but it definitely is something that you need to take into consideration this process. So I've already been outwardly saying is that the biggest challenge when it comes to offers is that the listing agent, all they think they need to do is go to the sellers and get a counteroffer. My question for you is, are you a realtor or do you work for the postal service? Your job is not a messenger. Your job is to strategically go through that offer. So again, a lot of the times where we have gotten the practice with this and why our auction agents are the absolute best at this is because we always get low offers in prior to auction because of our bidding to start from price. Now, this is not an auction episode, but realistically is that you're going to get a volume of low offers in on all of your auction properties that then you're going to have to handle appropriately without signing a counter. One of our cardinal rules for auction is not sending out a counter offer prior to auction because you've automatically told people what they don't have to pay. So taking the fundamentals of the offer of the auction process and putting that into traditional is not a crime. You just need to see that the fundamentals of how we do it that way are so much more efficient and effective, but also that's why our agents are better because they're dealing with more of them. You don't usually get a great deal of lowball offers on a traditional sale. They're either people that are talking to you about offers or anything along those lines, but realistically with auction, as it comes down to it, you get a lot of them. So you have to deal with them appropriately. And it is good practice, guys. As I said, the muscle memory or the cadence that you need in order to ensure that you know what you're doing for somebody's biggest asset is by doing. And auction really helps you with that volume perspective. But one of the first things that I want to take into consideration is when you receive an offer from somebody on one of your properties, making a phone call to that agent or even the buyer. It is really the same conversation regardless of whether they're an agent or a buyer, and making that phone call. And the first question that we ask, hey, look, thanks so much for your offer. Is this a starting offer or is this a highest and best? What do most people say most of the time? Oh, no, it's just a starting offer, Ben. Okay, can I ask why you didn't put your highest and best in? Oh, well, we're looking for a counter offer. Okay. Can I ask, how did you arrive at this number? So let me take you back. You've got an offer in. First, ring, you ring the agent, buyer, whoever it is. Hey, can I ask, is this a starting offer or is this a highest and best? Oh, no, it's just a starting offer. Okay, can I ask how you arrived at that number? Well, it's just simply, from this, that, or the other. Asking somebody how they arrived at that number is a really important step in everything to justify their thinking in things. For example, is that, they might say, well, it was just a number to get started so that we could get a counter offer off you. Now, one of the things that I do need to say when it comes to counter offering, guys, is that most of the time other agents going to ask you for a counter. They're not going to understand the whole don't send you a counter process. So I have to admit is that one of the things that when we train our agents through the auction process and we say, hey, don't send a counter offer out prior to auction. It's really not the good thing to do. Now, your auction director is with you the entire way through and helping you through that. But realistically, agents get a little combative when it comes to the other agents when they say, oh, no, we don't send an offer out prior to auction. If you say to an agent that, hey, I'm not going to send you an offer, a counter offer prior to auction, what do they then want? They want a counter offer at that point, right? So we've got to do things a little bit differently. We've got to use different terminology. We've got to get them on our side. Part of a negotiation is making sure that they are on your side at the very beginning of this. It is not dominating or winning or proving a point in any way, shape, or form. So again, offer comes in. Is it a highest and best or is it a starting offer? It's a starting offer. Great. How did you arrive at that number? Well, we just sort of really started there to get a counter offer. Okay. Or they might have some really good, credible feedback that then you can use to help you sell it. Great. So can I just ask, when it comes down to this number, you're looking for a counter offer, is that right? Getting an understanding of their intention. Okay. What other properties have they seen? Or what other properties have you seen? This, that, and the other. If they're just starting their journey, We're trying to get an understanding of where all of this is. But then you go down the path of getting an understanding of where they arrived at from that number perspective and giving an understanding also. So you understand that we are prior to auction, or you understand that at the moment, at this price point, I don't think that I could give a personal recommendation at this price that the seller would accept. Let me see what I can do and I'll come back to you. However, this is where it all changes, guys. However, can I ask for your help? Okay. I think that this is going to be a really good process for me to discover what my seller really wants. What I mean by that is that whilst we've had that discussion, we all know that people, what they want changes when something is actually in front of them. So this is just as much as the discovery journey as it is for you, as it is for me. So I appreciate if I can get your help getting me through this. This is one of the big challenges when it comes to offers in general, is that the other side or the listing side doesn't ask for the buyer's side help. Usually ego gets in the way. Usually asking them, then going back and going, after this, I need your help. Can I ask you, Mr. Agent or Mr. Buyer, what do you think it's worth? I would really love to hear what you think it's worth. Why do you ask them what they think it's worth? Because if they're an agent, they're giving that representation to the buyer. If they're a buyer, they are ultimately, you're getting an insight to the way they think. So all of this, again, I know it's a little jumbled and it's everywhere. It's really difficult to train these individual circumstances without actually having one in front of us that we're doing. But again, offer comes in. Is it a highest and best, or is it a starting? It's a starting. Great. Can I ask you how you arrived at that number? Well, it's this much. Great. Okay. We're really just looking for a counter. Okay. So just get me an understanding of the situation of your client and where you're at the moment. You guys at the moment are just looking for a counter offer. How long have you been looking? What other properties have you been, have you made offers on? Ask them some genuine question to find out what type of person they are. Okay. Mr. Agent or Mr. Buyer, look, this part of this process is, whilst I've discussed with the sellers what they're looking to achieve, part of this is a discovery for me as well, because what people say versus what they do when something is in front of them are two separate stories. So we're both on a discovery journey. So I'm going to need your help here with a bit of patience, if that's okay. Yep. Okay, great. Can I ask you what you think the house is worth? Now, guys, this is all part of this process of asking for help, falling on the sword. Maybe you might even say and sprinkle in there is that, hey, I really had a hard time comping this property out. That's why I'm using auction. If it is an auction property, okay, that's why I'm using auction in order to determine value. Could you help me out with giving me your opinion and what you think? I've always said this in any type of thing. To build a relationship with somebody, you ask them for help. Allow them to have a leadership position where they are helping you. That will immediately get them on side. So all in all, guys, like I said to you, one of the other core principles of this is not sending out a counteroffer is really important in the negotiation process, in my eyes, to really see the commitment and where other people stand. But where I'm going with this and what I want to talk about now is that not pointing out the obvious. So I've said, let's not put a counteroffer in. Don't say to the agent on the other end of the deal, hey, I'm not going to counter you. Immediately. Show them that you're going to make an effort. Now, when you go back to the sellers with this offer, okay, now you're sitting down with the seller, you're talking to them, it's obviously a low offer to begin with. That's where you need to take direction. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, look, my job here is to give a recommendation that we do not make a counter offer at this point. I'd like to go back and I'd like to ask them to increase their offer if they were looking to stop the auction or purchase the property, whatever it is, okay? I don't think countering these buyers just to simply blow them out of the water, okay, or to simply display your expectations at this point is the right thing to do until we see further commitment from them. Can I have your help by agreeing with me on this negotiation strategy? So all of this, guys, playing into it. We've gotten the offer, we've handled that. We're going to the sellers now and we're giving them our strategy and we're asking for their help to keep that strategy, right? All of this, imagine if you're in a listing presentation and you're taking them through the way that you could actually do this and coming back and making this recommendation that you don't counter somebody. Now, again, we don't want to throw it in the other agent's face that they're not countering. So you've gotten the seller on side. They don't want to counter at this point. We believe that the offer's low. So we're going to go back to the agent, okay? And we're going to go back and we're going to go back to the agent on the other end of the deal or the buyer. Hey, look, the part of this process, Mr. Buyer's agent or Mr. Buyer, is me trying to discover what the sellers really want. And at this point, guys, I actually don't want to get them to counteroffer. because I think that their expectations at the moment may need to have a little bit of an adjustment. And simply them putting that down in writing is going to do one of two things. One, it's going to simply solidify their expectations even further. Or second to that, it's going to completely blow them out of the water. Okay, your client out of the water. Blow the deal up. When I think that if we were to take some time and you and I were to discuss what your client's absolute highest and best is, I might be able to work on my client on the other end to get them closer to that before we put a counter offer together. So where does your buyer stand at the moment? Oh, hang on, wait. The other agent will probably say, "What, you're not going to send us a counter?" No, look, I need your help, because what my seller would likely counter with at the moment will just be overinflated and blow your buyer out of the water, because I don't want to have this negotiation process of your buyer coming in low, my seller coming in ridiculously high, only never to meet in the middle. I want to understand where your client's at from a budget perspective and where they would actually pay their highest and best for this price. And again, that's information only for my ears, to then make sure that I can get my seller closer to that number when they might actually eventually counteroffer, or we can verbally put this together. So guys, hopefully you can see where I'm going with all of this, is that I'm trying to get them on board with making sure they understand that I don't want my client to just simply send a high counteroffer. Now, they might not be going to do that, but I'm using that as an excuse to try and find out what the other buyer, or what their buyer, or what the buyer's highest and best is for the property. And I'm trying to work on their side with them I need your help, Mr. Buyer's agent, to show me what your client's budget is, so that then I can get my client closer to that number before we actually make it official, rather than blowing your buyer out of the water. Now, if they really are getting agitated, or they don't want to deal with it this way, they just simply want to counteroffer, you can say to them at this point is that, guys, I don't want to counter you, because again, it's just not going to help the situation. And if you're not willing to work with me on this, then I don't think that this is the property for you. Being able to have that process of elimination, if they're not willing to work with you on this, you've got to have the opportunity, you've got to have the mindset that what you're doing is absolutely helping everybody. Because, guys, I only ever see ego get in the way of a deal. Most of the time, and this is the analogy that I'll give you, if you take two people, you have a seller and you have a buyer. They meet each other at a bar and they don't have two agents involved, and they say, "Hey, Mr. Seller, you want $1 million? Mr. Buyer, you want to pay 900, figure it out," and they walk away. Most of the time you'll come back in 30 minutes and they've probably figured out either they're going to do the deal or they're close together, and they're either going to do the deal or they're not going to do the deal. It's just not going to work. Realistically, it doesn't blow up. There's no egos involved. Sometimes agents just simply complicate the situation. And I think we complicate the situation by thinking that a counteroffer is the easy way to go. I put it to you this way. I'll liken it to you this. It's like a text message. Most people will send a text before they will make a phone call when it comes to difficult information. Counteroffer is the exact same thing. It's the easy way out, and it just simply does not do anything for the negotiation process whatsoever. So guys, I think that in this process, if we are to go through the discovery process in the first initial phone call, is this a highest and best, or is this a starting offer? How did you arrive at the number? Tell me a little bit more, like you're looking for a counteroffer. Where's your client at the moment in the buying cycle? What other properties have they seen? Have they made any offers on anything else? Give me an idea of where their budget is, their pre-approval status, all of those different things from an informational perspective. Tell them that, hey, look, you're on a discovery journey and I'm going to need your help and your patience in order to find out. My sellers have told me, roughly what they want, but realistically, when you put something in front of them, that can then change. And I'm on just as much a discovery process with you as you are with me. But finally, tell me what you think the property's worth? I really had a hard time comping this property out. It's really different at the moment. Marketplace is strange. Can I have your help with telling me what you think the place is worth? Again, tucking ego away and getting them on side with you, building a relationship with the other agent or the buyer in order to get them on side there. Now, from there, you're going to the sellers. You ask them to be on board with your strategy of not countering them, showing the cards, because countering them is just simply at this point showing them a level of commitment without them showing a level of commitment. Just lowballing is not the way to show a level of commitment. We need to make sure that we're protecting the seller's integrity when it comes to price, and we are not blowing the buyer out of the water. This is a really big duty of yours, making sure you're protecting the seller, not allowing them to just put some god-awful number on paper from a counteroffer perspective, keeping that buyer attached because, hey, who knows? If they blow them out of the water, they might be really begging for that buyer later on because nobody else has turned up. It's our job to make sure that nobody gets pushed away. Our job is to gather as many people as possible. Now, from there, getting them on board, going back to the agent and taking the tact of the fact that, hey, look, my seller, I did not want them to put the counteroffer on paper. It might be higher than what we all had thought. And my job at the moment is to help them realize their own expectations might be a little bit unrealistic, but I'm going to need your help to do that. What's your buyer, if you can share with me your buyer's highest and best, or what their budget is and what they would pay for this property if they really want it. Now, this is between you and I, so then I can get my client, I can work on my client to be closer to that number by the time they might put a counter offer together, or by the time we let you know where they stand. I don't want them to just blow your buyer out of the water, because that is us, none of us any good. So guys, this is the strategic tactic then we all take to find out that client's number, what they're really going to pay for the property. And then at that point is when you get to make a decision in the next steps of the deal to see whether or not this is going to come together. At that point, they're going to really tell you where they ultimately stand, and you're going to know whether or not you are going to be able to bring your seller pulling a deal together at that point. Because an offer serves two purposes. The final portion of all of this, the offer serves two purposes. It's either an opportunity to sell the property, or it's an opportunity to educate your client. At that point, you then know what's next. Thanks for listening, folks. So about 75% of our audience hasn't liked, followed, or subscribed to our podcast. It would mean the world to us, and it would help this podcast more than you know to expand our reach if you were to like, follow, or subscribe on any of the platforms that you're watching or listening on. Thanks again.